striping and blah, blah, blah. We're staying at 3.5. They got, one more year of RVI money, and then we'll probably start going back up. This is a fixed percentage and they have more money. I think the state's just interested in making sure that we don't get any additional fees. Even though everything else is going up, they don't want us going up. Any questions on the first resolution for administrative charges? It's gonna be an annual exercise, at least until the current administration over there changes. No questions, then we'll go to number 3, which is the second resolution for Wednesday, and that's a resolution, it's, I don't call it housekeeping, but it's another annual resolution. This is for your motor fuel tax expenditures for all of '23. You're gonna pass a resolution, if you do, saying that you're gonna appropriate $550,000 towards general maintenance. If you'll recall, when I came in 2008, it was $600,000. And that is us doing our very best to appropriate general maintenance dollars towards the correct maintenance function. Mostly for seal coat and just, I don't know, just general maintenance. And you can't go over, so remember that discussion where you try to say, I'm gonna spend this much on this, and this, and you can't go over on any of them. So ideally, this would be for $2 million, so that you have enough in every category in case you go over, but it's just $550, and that's based on allotments. It makes you feel better at $600,000 in 2008. Questions or comments on allocating $550,000 towards your 2023 general maintenance program? Hearing none, I'll go to the next one. State, a new public act came out 6 months ago, and then the Department of Transportation responded to it. Basically, everywhere you see Class 3 truck route posted on your system, or anywhere in Illinois, those need to come down. They don't have to, but they need to come down. There's no such thing as a Class 3 anymore. They passed the law basically saying that everything's a truck route. Then they asked each local to say, well, what passes this criteria of the new law? And of the new law, we only have Clinton Road, Lower T, and the Vermillion Road. Only part of the Vermillion Road, from Clinton Road down to 150. And it's based on width and pavement design. I don't want to say it's a joke, but basically we have to report back to the state which of our routes actually meet this criteria. Like your Horse Brockton Road's not wide enough, to give you an example. Shiloh Road, only the piece north of Horse Brockton's wide enough, and I'll let you ask me questions so I don't just ramble on. This is a nothing burger. You're just gonna send a thing over there saying that my highway department, this is the board talking, my highway department has looked at your new criteria, and these are the few locations that pass the Class 2. And the words on that Class 2 or prohibited, we're not going to prohibit anything. I want to make sure you guys are okay with that. There's no trick questions here or anything to speak of. The act said, tell us which of your routes, so we can light up a map, meet this criteria. You trust that your highway department can do that. And then county board, tell us which routes you don't want trucks on. You want to prohibit truck traffic, and you don't want to do that. Now you do every year, 90 days, say, in accordance with the law, we want you to stay off the soft roads,
But that doesn't apply to those routes.
it does not. Like the solar farm is an example. Solar farm, they have to ask us all kinds of questions like, hey, pretty please, do we need permits, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to a state route, like we'll haul all winter on 150 or Route 1, and so will every farmer in the county. And those couple locations that we mentioned has got the same criteria. You're not gonna expect the highway department to ever tell someone they can't come on the Clinton Road, ever. It's not a prohibited class route. And we don't want to prohibit trucks from using Springfield Avenue, the Horse Brockton Road, the Shiloh Road. You don't want to make it a prohibited truck route, correct?
Right.
I think this is easy. I don't want to make it harder than it is, but I just want to make sure you guys are fully informed before you pass this resolution. Any questions on that? Again, the only thing different is, what used to be a class 3 truck out the high school road, or just all kinds of places. You're trusting the highway department to say, read the criteria and say, well, we don't meet that, or that, so we can't be. And they're good with it. Make sense? Forest Walking Road's too narrow, that's my best example. Too narrow. But the trucks will still be on it, and you're not gonna prohibit it. And finally, Dirk's been working with Prospect on that credit card, and they say they want a resolution. Augie and Josh and Dirk are trying to, it's on the agenda, there's a chance it'll get tabled between now and Wednesday. I don't think so. Augie, you wanna speak to that? I guess in the past, they've allowed the clerk to put on letterhead that the board has seen this and they've approved it unanimously, but in Dirk's direct interactions with Prospect, they want this actual form signed. So we're gonna have to go through the motions again on that, if you guys don't mind, to actually pass a resolution rather than a motion to allow the county highway department to have a credit card. Any questions on that?
Well, other departments have credit cards.
Yeah, so it's something the bank has been doing for several years now. And even for me to go over and switch, when I have somebody that leaves my office,
Right.
and then I hire somebody else and I want to change the signature cards, they want a resolution. And I said, now you need to understand something, that this is my office operating money. This is not general fund operating money. And they said, well, we need a resolution. So I go back to my office and I have a little meeting. And I take a letter back to them on letterhead, said there was a meeting held on this date and there were 5 people in attendance and everybody agreed to put so-and-so on it, and done. It's just one of those things.
So in the age of all this scrutiny, my preference at the highway department is have the board pass a resolution that the clerk will take roll call on, saying that the 7-member board voted this way. Any questions?
You have restrictions on what a credit card can be used for,
Well, I mean,
like meals or if they're out. working
yeah, there won't be any of
somewhere.
that. My fiduciary responsibility is directly to the board, and you get the claims, and you get to look at them. No, we don't have an internal policy. I had mentioned last time, and I'll mention it again, that I'm saying, just guessing, 6 or 12 times a year, we have people that get trained, we have to buy CDL license, we have to go to hazmat class. But no, you will never find me out using it for a weekend at Bernie's or whatever, you know, or. It's an internal
I just
policy.
wondered.
If you get a new county engineer, you might wanna
Yeah.
revisit what we use that
Don't we
credit
have a
card for.
travel and policy
We do.
anyway?
There is a
It
travel
is a-
policy,
Because the
yes.
accountants and auditors are
Absolutely.
gonna ask you, I mean, we can't just say we're not gonna use it for that, we have to have a policy.
Absolutely. Jimmy and Haddix just went and got a couple pieces of equipment. They got per diem and they got a lodging, and they have to do a travel request ahead of time that has to be reviewed and signed and it's supported. And they could have used that credit card. They didn't, we don't have one, but so.
Okay.
Generally speaking, like I'm having to buy, what was it last time? You guys remember? I bought a hazmat license or something. I can't remember what it was with my own credit
This is
card.
when it came up.
Yeah, we just don't do it anymore. But rest assured that it's not gonna be used for,
Okay, I just wondered, usually sometimes they have restrictions.
yeah, I don't know how else to tell you. You just have to
No,
trust,
that's fine.
trust your county engineer. And if he gets out of line, you need to find another
We
one.
trust you.
Yeah. When we get this card dated, we'll go out.
I'm not laughing.
Okay, quickly, discuss all stuff we've been through before. Bosch Pipe and Brockton, we've got the pipe, we're waiting on B&T, Bonwell Branch, that's up there in Scotland, where it's gonna be a timing thing. Curb 20 through 22, there's some constituents down there in Lower T that want some bank work, that when the weather supports it, we'll do it. Nevins and Woolham, that's the guardrail there at Nevins. We're gonna do some private property work with an easement behind that as an agreement to put guardrail in front of that entrance, remember Carl thing. Elbridge slab, that's working on that right now, that's that old broken concrete from the Nevins and from Elbridge, it's gonna go down to the slab, yes sir, in Elbridge.
On the Bosch pipe,
Yes, sir.
is that Bucky and he knows what you guys are gonna do?
I'm assuming, no, Bucky's Bonwell.
Oh, okay. All
Bucky's
right.
Bonwell,
All right.
And your role in that is to help Boots, and we gotta be real careful. Boots is running that,
Okay,
You-
but it's all,
it's all Boots.
okay,
Be careful not to make it ours.
I don't talk to anybody.
What Boots will tell you is he'll say, we're too slow, and you are. Your county highway has enough to do that when we get a chance, we'll get there. The only thing that I'll embarrass you on, or the group here will embarrass you on, is our ability to respond. We've got 7 guys and we're busy. I mean, it's hard to get 7. When we do things today, it takes the whole crew. Like when we got to do something, it takes the whole crew.
The main thing is, he's communicated with, that's all I'm asking.
I believe.
All right, all right.
I'm
Just-
hoping that Boots can keep that calm.
All right,
I think he's happy with the board,
okay.
but that doesn't mean it won't change because we're not coming fast enough or something. Yes, sir. Elbridge slab, that's with Dusty, and that's that slab that's washing out down there. That's being worked on right now because the weather is perfect for it. Yes, sir.
On the shoulders on lower T, do we
Yes,
have
sir.
enough money left to finish these shoulders?
We've asked, that's a long response, no. The HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program, paid for the shoulders that you just built, a discretionary fund that you have to ask for money. We have not asked for more money for the top 3 miles, and I told the state I wanted to, and they said you can't use any of the crash data from before. So once we did, yeah, I think I sent that mine to one of you, but they basically said, you have to start from scratch. So if someone had a terrible wreck yesterday, and then you've done a $4.5 million job, you can't count those wrecks anymore. It's ridiculous, and I'll keep trying, but you guys have $1.5 million, or whatever I told you last time, down here at the bottom. 1.3 for the upper 3 miles, and as of today, you're only gonna resurface what's there. And I'm comfortable with that if that's how it shakes out, but we will continue to,
In other words, it may not get done.
well, additional shoulders may not get done.
Okay,
But I want you to know, when you're talking to folks, that from Farnham's south, what we call it the middle section, from Farnham's Christmas Tree Road south, Sisson's, Spring Hill Lakes, we in the right place in our minds? You know where we are at? That first 3 miles is an old state section, and your county engineer doesn't think it's as gnarly as the rest of it. There's horizontal and vertical problems that causes shoulders to wash out and all kinds of things from Farnham south. So we would be comfortable never doing that if that's how it shakes out. I understand you want to do that, but it's it's Route 49 from Spring Hill Lakes in. I'm being a little sarcastic, but trying to make my point. It's the hills of Tennessee from Farnham south. You with me, Dan? Dang it.
sort of.
I'm trying. No, yeah, we're gonna try to do it, but we don't, if we can't get safety
So
money,
in
we can't
other
afford
words,
it.
the money you got to do that ended up not enough to finish the shoulders, all the way to Walmart.
Yeah, the $4.5 million that was spent down there, we certainly didn't have.
Yeah.
You had your highway department
All right,
with his hat in hand asking for money. And certainly if they wanna come up with another couple $1 million for shoulders, I'm in.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? Thorough upgrade, that project won't get done till next year because they gotta seed it and watch it. Everybody's happy with the lower T, right? Everybody's seen it.
Is the striping permanent stripes?
The striping is yes and no. The answer is yes, it could be, but it's no because they didn't get the rumble strips down. So Varsity, who's doing the rumble strips and the striping, is gonna do it again after they rumble strip it. Has there been any questions or concerns about them or anything?
They don't have to run those stripes.
Yeah, they do, unfortunately. That's part of safety.
In Illinois, you only do it on the sides,
me up
right,
every
not
time
the
I
middle?
hit
It's in the middle, zero
Keep it in the middle, it won't be a problem.
Well, somebody like Lud, if you think about it, if Lud's down there with the bus, you'd want those.
I know, I
rumbles.
just see it in Vermillion, Indiana, and I see what it does to the road and how much more quickly it
Deteriorates it.
deteriorates.
See, they'll rumble strip the middle and they'll have to prime it because they expose aggregate, so they'll have to prime back over after they rumble strip it and that causes.
So that's what those dark strips are all the time. I always wondered what that was.
The strips full of water that Lisa's barking about, yeah.
Yeah.
But they've been proven by many studies, and I'm starting to subscribe to it, that it does wake up. There's a lot of
Oh,
people
yeah,
that can't
I
drive.
know, it's a mixed bag, catch 22.
I've heard of people that come home in fog and at nights
Wake me up.
with those guiding them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how bad some of the
You're
drivers
not
are.
supposed to sleep while you're driving, Doug.
Well, it's not sleeping, it's the textures, you gotta let them know.
It's extras too.
Yeah.
My kids are the worst. I mean, they're not the worst, I tell them, but they're representative. I'm like, pay attention.
Nobody texts anymore when they're driving, did you
Yeah.
know that?
It kills me, the semi drivers that are texting when they go by. You see them.
Oh, yes,
You're running to the
every day.
bus, they're all the time, they're watching TV.
I usually hear them because they get on those rumble strips.
Yeah, I don't blame you for watching TV, I used to do that.
What do you
Yeah,
guys
you do, in front of you.
I still
Yes.
do.
Now, you do have 10-year-old rumble strips on that bottom 3 or 4 miles on
Yeah.
Lower T.
Yeah, right,
10-year-old
before
ones.
you get to Indiana line.
So we're okay with it. If it gets $4.5 million of money, then we kinda like it, right?
At least if you're driving fast enough, you'll never hear them.
You'll hear them,
But,
just not as
It'll be a
loud.
whir, it won't be a bump.
Camp Bridge, we asked for money. We'll find out in the spring whether we got it for that $750,000 bridge. It's now $2 million. We talked about that a bunch. Just to remind you, if we get the extra money, we're going. If we don't get the extra money, it sounds like we're probably not, unless we can find another way to fund it with federal money. We got a hot box, which is keeps mix warm in the winter so that you can throw patch mix. Another Durapatcher, ours is 10 years old, and the one we have, we would sell, and we've already offered it, but we don't know how that'll go. Durapatcher's a spray patching. It's a tank and a motor and a pump, and you go out and spray patch, you do it in the winter, it's got a jacket on it, keeps it warm. Spray patching. A hot box is a big piece of iron that's got heat that you throw cold mix in, so you hand patch the deeper holes with it. We've got the first one ever. We've never had one before, we have one now. We got one of those that was a demo model at last year's prices on Sourcewell. We did real well. We've worked with IDOT on what they've got. And then the Durapatcher and a tank, an emulsion tank, are both came from Alabama at less than half of new, and they were used once. And when Jimmy and Haddix went down there, they said this place was just unbelievable. Well-funded outfit. And their group got the Durapatcher in the tank and said, we're not doing that, because it's a lot of labor. So half price deals there. And again, another township can buy our old one if they want. It's worth $10,000 or $11,000. Those things go for about $100,000, and we gave $35,000 for it. It's a 19 with 80 hours. With brake, looks brand new. Let's see here, Buster Patcher. New tandems. Remember you guys wanted to buy 2 new tandems a year and a half ago? Want to get them ordered because of the chips shortage. We still are hearing that they're going to build those next month. It's been about 18 or 19 or 20 months.
That's the build day.
That's the build date for the actual truck and chassis, and then they'll go over to get outfitted with the bed and plows and spreader boxes and hydraulics. And that guy's got all his stuff on the ground. So you might see some claims eventually coming for that. I'll probably you'll lease, have to take a resolution, at least one of those trucks. We've been saying we'll lease both, but we've been trying to save money. And we may be able to buy one with 206 money, we'll see. But I want you to anticipate me coming to you and say, hey, we need 175,000. It says there somewhere, doing 150,000 each to lease. No surprises there, right? Everything, stuff we've talked about. The audit's still going on. Probably go on till, Brian leaves. Any questions on the audits? That's been, lesson learned, I guess, for now, right? The old saying, you used to have 1 administrator for 7 workers, now you need 7 administrators for 1 worker is where we're at right now, but we all think that'll probably change again, right? Things happen in cycles, and maybe things will relax again. Okay, item 10, public comment. Any public comment today?
This is Gerald and Diane Meeks. They're here concerning the situation out on the Clinton Road with the portable building that we talked about several months ago. So go ahead and.
Yeah, I would appreciate
Carl's kept in contact with us, and it's just an eyesore for the most part. We understand he is on the right of way. We knew, a lot of us out there knew that that was the case as soon as it popped up one day. He must be pretty intelligent. He's got it up on blocks, there are no taxes, and he don't have a mailing address. He's using the neighbors, and I'm not sure how he's got a generator in there or what the circumstances are. It gets pretty trashy pretty quick, and then somebody says something to him and he'll, so if they burn spots in the middle, he's got a porta pot, which is real convenient. So I just wondered, you know, personally I'd have thought at the beginning, we just told him to say, hey, this ain't gonna get it, you gotta move. And now I understand he's lost his job, and some of the neighbors have tried to talk to him, but he gets a little bit irate. And I just don't know that that's the right spot for that building or anything other than like that. I mean, I don't know the difference between that and what the local farmers can just plow up the right of way and plant it. It's the same thing. I mean, taking advantage of that situation there, and it's just not cool. And people talk among themselves, but nobody seems. A lot of people have things going on this morning, of course, but and so a lot of sickness. So we called several people that said, yeah, they would, but they can't. So, but I just would kind of lean that, and I understand today's going to be something you make a decision on. And we're hoping it's to just remove that and get us back to where we can at least have a good presentation of people driving down the road, which is, I don't know what the traffic road is, but it's still, it's just, a lot of people commented on it. You have anything you want to add?
No, you did pretty good.
Well, I get that, okay. But no, I just think it's something that could have been very easy to take care of at the very beginning and said, hey, this won't get it.
Where is this?
He would have,
It's out on the Clinton Road, about a mile before you get to the state line.
yeah.
What is it exactly? I don't know what we're talking about.
Well, this Johnny Duran owns the property out there, and this guy that he knows was down on his luck. He felt sorry for him. He bought a portable building, like a 12 by 30 building, and set it on the property. And Johnny thought the right-of-way was 33 feet from the Clinton Road, which it is not, it's 80 feet. So last Monday, me and Aaron went out there and measured it again. Aaron had already been out there back in September, I think, and talked to the guy and told him, you know, that he was on the right-of-way and everything. But anyway, he's 3 feet. The right-of-way is 80 feet, and we measured, and it's 77 feet from the middle of the road. So he's 3 feet of the building is on the right-of-way. So
It's just on the north or south side of the road.
on the south side of the road. The porta potty is not on the right-of-way that he's got out there. He doesn't have any electricity. As Gerald said, he's got a generator that
Is he living there?
he lives there. He lives there. He was working at NAL. He lost his job. He feels like he got screwed over by NAL. And me and Aaron were out there Monday, and we talked to him for a while. We talked to Johnny Duran, who is the owner of the property, about the situation. We went over and talked to Larry. He was pretty irate, to say the least. And but you know, we had a good conversation, and he said that he's trying to get the thing moved off the property, off the right-of-way, back. He's talked to a friend of his who's got a backhoe. He runs a tree service, and he said he might be willing to come over to help move the thing off the right-of-way. And then, you know, I talked to him, and you know, he said, you know, he's just mad at the world. when he lost his job, that kind of turned things south for him.
I get that.
And he thinks everybody's picking on him, and he doesn't like to be told. He has a problem with authority, I could obviously tell that. But, you know, we talked to him, saying, you know, we're here to help you and try to remedy the situation, and he agreed that he wants to move it. Johnny Duran said that he was gonna talk to some neighbors and see if they could bring a tractor over and help move it over 3 feet. I don't know that he's done that yet, but anyway, then Tuesday, and he mentioned during the conversation that on Monday that he didn't have food to eat and everything, and so I went to Dollar General and got $50 worth of food and dog food, cause he's got 2 pit bulls, and took the food out there to, well, I took it out there, and then when I was getting ready to pull in the driveway, there was 3 squad cars there. So I went on down, I didn't want to get in the middle of that. I called the jail, talked to the dispatcher, and she told me that he'd been over at the food stamp place in Indiana, threatening the people over there, and he'd come back home, and that's why the law had come to talk to him, one from Germain County, Indiana, and 2 from Edgar County. But so I went back up there to, I guess, not really stick my nose in, but you know, since I'd been involved in the situation, I thought I could maybe help. And talked to him, and within a few minutes, the deputies left, and there I was with him, talking to him and everything, and told him I had food for him, and he said, I'm not gonna accept your food.
Not for the dogs?
Well, he said, I'll take the food for the dogs, but not for me.
I
Yeah,
don't care about him,
Yeah, and he said, my grandfather told me that if I can't take care of myself, not to accept something to the effect, not to accept from other people. And of course I thought, well, then why are you over trying to get food stamps? But anyway, we had a good conversation. He ended up taking the food. And then before we left, he said, I realize this isn't gonna work. He said that, you know, what I'm paying for the building, what I'm paying to run the generator and no job, it isn't gonna work. He said, do you know anybody that's got some rental property where I can get out of here? And we talked about Sonny Lowry, because he said that he lived in one of Sonny's places in Vermillion a few years ago. Got a hold of Sonny, and Sonny called me back and said, yeah, I might have a couple places. I said, well, he's got a couple dogs, and Sonny was... But anyway, Sonny said, I'll run out and talk to him. He didn't say when he was, but he was going to go out and talk to him and see if they could work something out to get a place for him to live. So I think, in myself, I think it'll take care of itself. I don't know whether it's going to be this week, next month, you know, I don't know. But I feel like he realizes that it isn't going to work, you know. The only heat he's got, he said he had a little propane tank, and he said I'd just keep it enough to keep from freezing to death.
well, it sounds like if he moves it off the right of way, we have no say so anyway. Is
True,
that right?
yeah, if he moved it
But
3 feet, correct.
are you guys willing to have some patience and see if he does what he says he's gonna do?
Well, I think we've got patience, not a problem. I think, respectfully, I think, does the county need to look at a zoning ordinance for that kind? I mean, far-fetched, okay? Yeah, but all the immigrants we have coming into this country, you know, what's to keep them from doing the same thing? And somebody's setting up
Well, that's
a
true.
tiny town and a right of way, but yeah, as far as, yeah.
Moving
patience,
it
that's-
back 2 or 3 feet isn't gonna help the problem because
No, I know, but it makes, it's he's off for right of way, it kinda takes away our authority with it.
I know, that's what,
but it's right.
That's it, but as far as what you're talking about, it doesn't solve a thing.
still there.
Hopefully, like Carl said, he'll do what he's planning on doing, situation will solve itself, that'd be the best
Yeah.
situation to happen.
yeah. That won't be a problem, but I just didn't want the county to say, okay, yeah, you've got, you know, 3 years or 2 years or 6 years or whatever the case to move, and that just doesn't solve anything. You and does the same thing happen again someplace else in the future? I know it's a pretty wide right of way down there, down through that whole Clinton Road area. That's
Well,
comes
yeah, it
all
varies
the way
anywhere
down.
from 30 feet to 125
Yeah,
feet.
Right, and,
But it looked like even in the summer, he had drain pipes out the doors, just draining, I don't know, bath water, just in the ditches. I mean, you know, just, and he
it,
burns in different places.
And I know, you know, we talked to him about the motorcycle, you know, we asked about, you know, we were gonna move it for him. And he said, I'll take care of it, and I went out there yesterday and he's moved it, it's not there anymore, I don't know where,
yeah.
I don't know where it's at, but it's gone from where it was
They had it
sitting.
tied up to a tree, and then it kinda, I think I saw a truck there the other day, and I think a guy helped him move it.
Yeah,
Tied up to a tree.
Yeah,
so,
Okay, yeah, I think Jeff's wanting to get moving here, so,
No, we need to
You
discuss
wanna go,
this.
okay.
Fine.
so, you know, you had a conversation with the
The
local
water
roads
station.
guy over there, and tell us.
The DOT, wants the count, there's confusion.
What's the bottom line?
The bottom line is that, my recommendation to the county board is that you, since you've already had precedent, that you have other properties that are on right of way throughout your system. The last one we did was right over here on Prairie's Edge, this garage, that we do a revocable permit, just like we've done in the past, and the Department of Transportation is on board with that. And I would do and the DOT does not want us to push and to say, get your shed and move it out. The DOT's position is that you give them time. I recommended 2 years, and I'm gonna recommend that to the county board today. A revocable permit that John
Like 2
Duran
years.
signs. It's,
Yeah, yeah, this permit is with the landowner, not with
that's
the,
correct.
this Larry guy.
Right, I understand.
Right.
So Mr. Duran has 2 years to correct. First of all, as the highway department, we have no health or safety issue with where he's at. We had no idea that he was 1 or 2 feet under the right of way. It had to be brought to our attention. So we, as a highway department matter only, transportation, we take no issue with what's out there. From a transportation perspective only. Now, you guys have constituents in the different,
Well, first of all, we can't take any action. We can direct you
correct,
by whatever,
allow me.
and allow you to do it, but unless we get it on an agenda, we can't, I mean, if you want a formal.
No, I'm not asking for one, I'm just wanna make sure.
Okay.
that-
I'm just trying to,
It's not the county's right away though, correct?
this gets where it's
This could take a
really
long time.
weird.
Okay.
Generally, let me say a couple things real quick.
No,
I'm not
no,
gonna
you're
give you
fine.
detail, we can talk in my office, cause it take a long time. Back in the day, the state of Illinois and the county of Edgar worked together to build the Clinton Road
Okay.
with state bond issue money or state aid money. The county, in its authority, did the plats and the permitting and blah, 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 and the state actually acquired the right-of-way as an agreement. It was 2 entities working together, let's together get this done. So I'm making this just a short version. So formally, we participated in the right-of-way acquisition, but technically, we think, take a lot of research, a lot of time, a lot of money. Technically, the right-of-way is in the state of Illinois' name.
That was my understanding.
State of
That's what
Illinois,
I thought.
Right.
the current administration proclaimed, which I sent you the email, since you have jurisdiction and maintenance, we are currently saying, without getting into the weeds, that we have no problem with you guys addressing this. We will take no issue.
Okay.
Because in my early email in September, I said, I don't have the authority to act, or you don't.
Right, and
Right,
that's
that
what
was
we
what-
And
act.
That's what I
Jeff
thought.
hung his hat on that. Jeff said, since it's not our
Oh,
right of way.
the board
Right,
agreed.
I,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now the DOT, what's changed is DOT is saying, no, you do have authority to do something about it, and you need to. But allow us to qualify it, do not go out there and say, get that off. Give the property owner plenty of opportunity
Did they suggest a time frame?
sort of. I told them what I
Okay,
thought.
my issue with the time frame
That's your call.
is I don't know why we're allowing something to happen that's not right for over 2 years, for 2
Okay,
years.
will that be a board decision?
Well, and the other thing is, if we have an issue, this is an important issue, any of these are, but say we have another issue up north in Ross Township, and somebody's creating an issue that might even be a safety issue.
Then we'll move it. Then we'll
Okay,
move it.
well, but I'm saying if we're going around and letting people correct problems over 2 years, does that not cause us an issue when we do have a safety issue?
I understand. You're thinking it's setting a precedent that you don't want.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm thinking that, and Carl, I defer totally to you, but I'm just wondering if we're not creating a future problem with this too, by the way we handle it. I just think we need to carefully consider.
You mean by waiting 2 years?
You're right,
Yeah.
why are we not going with a year?
Well,
Or 6 months, or?
me personally, 6 months.
That's your.
You know, that, I mean,
Is that enough?
if he wanted to do it, he could go out there today and do it, but, you know, the winter time, you know, cold and everything, I mean, I understand. My thinking is 6 months. That'd be getting next spring, and then if it isn't, then we need to take further action. That's my
The other
opinion.
side of that coin is that he is not the landowner.
Correct.
Right.
It's with Johnny
So, I
Duran.
mean, to deal with him and Johnny Duran,
It's
he's
just Johnny Duran.
Yeah.
The board will be working with Johnny Duran only.
The landowner. Correct. We
Landowner.
only work with the
And
landowner.
he's already been there 6 to 8 months.
So 6 months from point of notice.
Yeah, and that's what the
We
board's
issue
saying.
a permit, right?
It's a revocable permit.
Did you talk to the
I've
landowner?
talked to Johnny a couple times.
And he's agrees that it needs to be moved.
Yeah.
And he's.
Yeah, he went out, after the day we were out there, he had a flagpole, you know, we talked about the flagpole
Yeah.
out on, and he moved it back to the woods. And, Larry told me, he said, Johnny is wanting, he's trying to comply, basically, I'm not. But he said Johnny wants to comply with everything you guys are saying,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I think we have no reason to believe that he won't,
Well, I think we have to give
given
them the
given
benefit
the
of the
time.
doubt.
Yes, I think so.
What are the rest of, you guys know how Carl and I feel, how do you guys feel?
I think 6 months.
I agree.
I'm just working
I
on this
agree.
one.
Dan,
I agree.
Russ?
Anything? Is that what you're-
So if this was a point of public health, being public, not his own health, I guess his health would be public health too, then doesn't that then automatically get the health department involved?
Well, I was gonna say now, I had an issue one time with someone that had a place and he said, well, there's rats running in and out of it. And I'm like, well, now you're talking a different situation. If it's a health department, then you could potentially send the health department out there to see if it's,
But
if
then
it
we
is.
don't have that situation, do we? This is not a
See, that's-
situation for the
yeah,
health
that's what-
department.
No.
Not with this situation. I mean,
Now, we have some others we'll discuss later.
well, yeah, because I think I told you, I've told all of you, I've been around the county and there's a lot of bad, I won't say a lot of bad places, but there's bad places. That's not one of them.
Environmentally, or pest, or,
Yes. Yeah, health issue and safety issues
right, for
that I've
children.
seen, and I think Marissa's supposed to be here, and I'm gonna set up a meeting with her
Right.
to see what the health department can do on a lot of these situations. And, you know, I've read the Litter Act, and it's kind of vague, and I'm gonna see if she has any suggestions on how we can deal with some of these problems throughout the county.
We-
There's several of them out there.
You mentioned zoning. We have found that zoning isn't something that folks support around here, at least at this point. Well,
No, I mean,
your
yeah.
points are well taken.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if we start having other issues or additional issues, then that may be a different thing.
Right.
But at this point in time, you know, our folks in general are.
And I've looked at the statute, the township can do their zoning for their own township.
Yes. In fact.
You have that authority.
we can address that tonight, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Doesn't
I mean, it's-
Kansas
But I
have some
think that
zoning?
would be-
You what?
Kansas has some zoning,
Do they?
yeah.
Kansas does.
Yes,
Okay.
because see, they, of course, I think part of it was thrown out, but they zoned for, solar and, wind farms, and I think part of that was then thrown out, and they took that power away from, part of it away from the
From
townships.
in general.
Right, but,
Will do.
What would the zoning do? Is that per, like land?
well, it starts telling people how they can handle their land.
It gets really complicated. We kinda looked into that at one point. Well, then you gotta have a pretty comprehensive statutes written for what you can and can't do. And some people agree with those things, and some people don't agree with the statutes that, and it gets to where and then you get litigation problems when you get the attorneys involved. That's, you know, somebody comes out and says, well, you got this, you need to clean this up, or well, then you end up in court. It gets really complicated when you zone a countywide. Didn't we kind of determined that?
Right.
Well, and there is resistance to people,
Telling
government
you what
coming
to
in
do,
and telling
yes.
people what they can
Right.
do with
I
their
fully
land.
understand that.
There has to be, I mean, we will exhaust everything we can to make sure that this gets
Well,
resolved.
getting back to this, I think the 6-month deal is a lot better situation than, you know, umpteen years. And I like what you said, it's the same way. But,
Are we gonna get resistance from the state on that? We'll just have to see.
I guess what, it taking care of itself is ideal.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's pretty aggressive. That's my personal and professional opinion.
Well, see,
That
I
doesn't
don't
matter.
understand that it's not a major problem. I mean, it's a major,
No,
but I mean, it can be solved. We
agree.
could probably all go out there in 3 or 4 hours with a couple pieces of machinery and solve it. I don't understand
Agreed.
why we're even allowing it 6 months
Well,
personally.
it's kind of, it's, I work in seasons, and this is not a good season to be out.
I get what
there
you're
with
Well,
equipment.
as soon as it freezes, it would be an excellent,
Could be,
okay?
I mean, a set blow.
In fact, it'd probably be better than spring.
Correct.
Sounds to me like you could go out to him and ask him, say, how soon do you think you can get it moved?
Well, we have.
Yes. And then, that's,
All right. Well, if we give you 6
Hi,
months,
Adam.
can you get it done in that time?
Yeah.
well, it can always be extended if there's circumstances,
Okay.
but we don't wanna talk about that.
Getting invaded.
Are we good?
Yeah, I'm gonna take,
I don't know
the
what
straw poll indicated that the county board has no problem with the highway engineer issuing a revocable permit for roughly 6 months from this day to have that right-of-way encroachment addressed. And that letter will go to Mr. Duran. Carl has already agreed to facilitate or be the liaison rather than me.
Return receipt requested,
I think he'll actually hand deliver, it's my guess.
Yeah,
okay, have it signed.
Is that correct?
yeah. And I'll make sure that Larry is aware of that too.
Okay.
I'll
Is that
first,
removal completely or just back? Because if it goes back,
We-
it really doesn't.
All we can do is get it off the right of way.
yeah,
That's as far as we can go.
yeah, we
We
can.
can't tell them what they have on their legal ground,
Right.
unfortunately.
As long as they don't have an illegal septic system. If they had a septic system, then it would be a whole different story,
I don't think they got a septic
but
system.
there's
got a
no,
porta
there's,
potty.
there's nothing that
There's been
is
trees.
something to regulate.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, item 11, any other old business or new business that the board would like to discuss today? Hearing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys.
couple seconds, couple minutes for the.
Hey, ladies, good morning.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow night.
Look forward to it.
See you. Come in here and raise some hail or what? Yep. Take some chairs. We'll get them back there. What is that? No cussing or fussing at all?
They got a township board meeting tomorrow night. They want you to come to talk to the board.
And how are you?
Is that still Joe?
No, Joel Hollis is the supervisor. Gerald's a township board member. Jerry Huffman.
Would you all please rise to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a full quorum of board members, so we'll start with some of our presentations. Adam?
Well, you've all got your monthly report in front of you. There's nothing really abnormal to report this month, or for November anyway.
Pay attention.
It's kind of interesting, we ended up the exact number of calls we did last year, 181. All our times are within acceptable ranges, still under a minute our dispatch in route, but everything else is pretty on par for the month. Like I told you guys, our report successful first-time innovation rates for this year. Probably gonna look at reporting something different next year. If you guys don't have anything you wanna see, I'll come up with a couple of things to report, but if you guys have something you'd like to see, I can pull about any statistics possible. Yeah, Lisa.
One other, for the first column, could, before you start in on January, could you just add another column of what your goal is or your standard?
4 times,
Whatever you have a standard for.
I sure can. The second page, as always, is our destinations. Again, lately, hospitals are pretty much full. Especially today, our hospital itself was full. ER was completely full already at 8 o'clock this morning, but then we're having a hard time transferring patients out because these hospitals are either full or understaffed. So that is causing some transport delays. So we are dealing with that. My new ambulance is fully licensed, and I don't know if you guys have seen it on the road yet, but he went to Springfield last week and got all the paperwork, so it's out and about. Probably gonna pull some of the graphics off of it and redo them, maybe change it up a little bit. It didn't come back like I thought it was going. So the truck itself is great, but the graphics package, I'm not totally happy with, so I'll probably be adjusting that. I hate to use the term full staff because it always bites me in the butt, but we are getting, I actually just had another new person start today, so as of right now, I'm only one person down, when that has a potential of being filled very quickly. Like I said, I'm hesitant to say that because anytime I say that before, it usually goes the other way. Working with the 911 ETSB board on getting some additional communication coverage in the southern part of the county, the Vermilion, Oliver, Kansas area. It's kind of a drop off down there, so I'm working with them and our radio supplier to get some options. Carl sits on that, so he could probably give you some more information if you needed that. And then we have our high school EMS class, EMT class, and our community EMT class, full swing. Those students are released for ride time. So if you see us show up on scene, we've more than likely got at least 3 people, if not 4, getting out of the ambulance, because we have, between students and new employees, we've got a lot of orientation going on right now. So a lot of good things happening. We are seeing a ton of, we were just talking flu and RSV and COVID, so it's definitely an uptick again. But finishing the year strong. Any questions, comments, concerns?
What's RSV?
It's a respiratory virus.
Usually younger kids have
Yeah.
symptoms of ours.
Usually affects the younger population.
That's not you.
No. But he also said it gets the older ones too.
We got our problems.
Like I said, usually, there are some,
Yeah.
I was at the jail the other day and one of your new EMTs was in there and I thought that was a good idea. They're coming up there for a couple days to just see how 911 operates, you know, from the dispatch end to maybe better understand things, and I thought that was a good idea.
So part of our orientation process is, they just don't orient in EMS, they orient it. We take them to all the other agencies. The only agency they actually sit down with and spend the day with is 911. But we go introduce them to fire and police and sheriff, but they also orient in other departments in the hospital, our med-surg unit, ER, just so they know that we operate as a full cohesive team. We're not just one department, we have to operate with everybody. And I mean, seeing how some of those other departments work is definitely beneficial.
Thank you, Adam. Hi,
Hi.
you're with Neil?
Yes. I'm Jeremy's wife. He sent a report, but, emailed it, so you guys should have that. It
Is it
says
in,
that.
we had it last time,
We
I
had the
think.
last meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
last
had
week.
to go to Neil Machinery today, but, he said for the last 3 months, they've had 62 calls each month, so September, October, November, 62 calls for each of those months. Call times are under 4 minutes. I don't know what else you need to know.
Yeah, I
If
looked
you
at
have
that.
questions, I can relay them to him.
I saw that sheet the other day, and it kind of surprised me that you had that many calls.
Yeah, we have, I guess, last month, we had to turn over more calls to Horizon simply because we were out on other calls versus the month before. But that's what I know.
Any
Any questions that I can relate to him? They can tell you, answer.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Okay, next we'll go to the health department and then we'll go to the Paris Fire District. I think you wanted to speak on that today, but you want to introduce your folks from the.
Yes, thank you to Monica Dunn and Marissa Beck for coming, and
Scotty is
And Scotty, as a health department board member, we are, I know I am personally grateful that he is willing, interested, and committed to learning more about it by having meetings and learning from you all and going out to the field. So much appreciated. So if you want to come on up here, and we're going to talk about the mobile food ordinance that we have voted on as a health board, but need to discuss today. So I leave that to the two of you.
Marissa's going to present this today. Do you want her to go page by page, or would you rather her just go through the things that are different from the retail food ordinance?
We got it on the December 5th. It was in the December 5th packet.
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
If
there
you
was,
have your other.
No,
I
this is
got it
back.
on the internet, and where we had read it.
It's in your packet
it's
today.
in the
Oh,
new
was it in
packet.
today's packet?
Yeah, I made you a
It's in
copy.
the new
I didn't
packet.
think it was in
Okay.
that.
Boy, Augie, good thinking.
I had a question beforehand, because is this going to be revisited and amended?
The Board of Health has approved it,
I understand that.
yes.
But
So
my understanding was some of the board members thought that they may want to amend it.
that has not been communicated to me. Have you
I
heard
haven't heard
anything?
anything, no.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. All right.
I guess, is this something brand new, or is this something we've had for some time and you just made some changes? or-
The majority of this document comes straight from the Edgar County retail food ordinance. So, if it's okay, I can have Marissa go through the things that are different from the retail food ordinance that we've already had established.
So is this a new thing, the mobile?
The mobile food,
So this is the new,
yes,
new
but
ordinance.
it's a new
Yeah.
ordinance,
Right,
yes,
okay, I got
yes.
That's what,
Do you wanna walk us through the differences
Sure.
between mobile food and, retail?
For the ordinance or just in general?
For the ordinance in general, just as much information as we can give them so that they know,
Sure.
and feel comfortable with the information.
Okay. Well, we started developing this back in the spring, so it's been months in the making. We used several different other local health departments, their ordinances. We've reviewed those and took kind of bits and pieces of each and made it into ours. Mostly because, when I first started almost 8 years ago now, we've always had just a handful of mobile food vendors, 3 or 4. Now we have well over 30. So the mobile food vendors have just kind of been crazy, especially through COVID. It's more like a restaurant on wheels now, and we're seeing more and more of them. So the intent of this is just to have an ordinance to where there's enforcement if it's needed, and just to ensure that every single vendor that comes in are all following the same rules. They're following the rules just like our retail food establishments. So that's kind of why it was developed and the purpose of it. I mean, I can kind of go page by page. Majority of this comes from, like Monica mentioned, our retail food ordinance, which has been approved and adopted. We've used that for years. And then FDA food code, which we have also adopted, and Illinois Department of Public Health. So page 1, I don't know how you want me to do it, page by page. You just want to ask any questions. You want me just to go over. There is one section that is specific to mobile food vendors themselves. I can start there if you'd like. That is page, it's 10, yes, page 10.
I have a question
Sure.
before you get started. You have different tiers on the
Yes.
regular. Why wouldn't you just create a new tier in your existing program rather than having a new one?
Because this one, there's a section in it that has everything that mobile food vendors have to have per food code. So it goes into like floors, walls, ceiling, that type of thing.
And that couldn't be included in the regular ordinance as a specific section and tier?
It could be.
I just didn't know why we were getting into multiple ordinances when one ordinance could handle the whole thing. That's all.
I think we've kind of followed what other counties
Yeah.
have done, and
Well, if
most
you
of the
use-
other counties
don't-
were having a mobile food ordinance, but again, you know,
Is
that's.
Champaign one of them?
Yes.
Yeah, well, okay. We're not,
And Coles is one of them.
Coles, Macon, Douglas.
My question is, what did we do, how did you, regulate them before this ordinance? Because I'm assuming this is like, during the honeybee and all of the trailers and the fair and stuff. And I know we've had those forever, so how were those done before we had something that was specific for mobile?
So they fell under that retail food ordinance that Jeff is referring to. They fell under that. It has a temporary food section in food code, that mobiles, temporary and mobiles were kind of one entity kind of for a while, until it's gotten bigger and bigger. And so now state is saying, you know, you have to categorize them as high risk, medium, low risk, and with that, we have to do more inspections, and we're treating them just like any other restaurant. Before, it used to be, we could do temporary or mobile, depending on what kind of food they were serving and where they were going to be, and that is no longer allowed per IDPH.
And I do remember from the conversation on health board, there's a whole lot more as far as you have to move every certain amount of time, and you have to allow a certain amount of time before you set up again.
Yes.
So I understand that those are different compared to at the Honeybee Festival. So that is something worth noting, that's part of what makes this separate when you're thinking about it. So that is quite different.
Correct. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so on page 10, under operations, it's in the very middle of the page there. This is basically the major difference between what's in our retail food ordinance and what's in this drafted mobile one. So A, mobile food establishments may operate at one location for a maximum of 18 consecutive hours before returning to their commissary.
It's not 10.
that's not 10.
Oh, that's not 10 on yours?
No, we don't know where you're at.
I'm sorry.
I think it's 11.
Pre-operational 12.
Yeah, well,
And then towards the bottom.
Oh, operations. Yes, operations. It is 12, Lisa, thank you.
Okay.
I apologize, it's 10 on mine.
I was looking at yours, and I was
And
looking
you're
at mine.
looking at it, I'm like, that does not match.
Okay,
Start over.
good.
Okay, all right, so under operations, all mobile food establishments shall be required to adhere to the following provisions. A, mobile food establishments may operate at one location for a maximum of 18 consecutive hours before returning to their commissary and may not return to the same location for more than 7 days in a period of 30 days. Exceptions shall be made for mobile food establishments operating during special events. So, that last sentence is saying, you know, if there is like Honeybee or there's Christmas in Paris or there's some event, the fair, for example, may run up to that 7 days in the same location. The way this is worded that way for a reason. The maximum of 18 consecutive hours, that's in there so that they have to return to their commissary, which is like their home base. So mobiles don't necessarily cook their food on site like temporaries do. So they can have what they call a commissary where they have their wash, rinse, sanitize, they have their proper food storage, and there they have where they cook and make all of their food. So they're transporting that cooked food to the trailer and then selling it to the public. So they have 18 hours in which they can do that before they have to return back to that commissary. And the reason for that, there's several reasons, but the main one being that they only have so much water storage and so much waste water storage on those mobile food trucks. So we don't want them to just continue to run in the same location without returning back to the commissary to ensure that they have enough water to wash their hands and wash, rinse, sanitize.
Can I ask a question? Can
Yes.
you give an example of one of those?
Of a commissary?
No, of somebody that makes their food and brings it in.
Roosters and Rumps, they're out of Clark County, but they are an example, then they come here. If you want one from our county, would be
House of Brisket.
House of Brisket's on site though. Derailed is a good one from On the Tracks. They sometimes make a little bit of food inside that truck, but majority of it is made at the restaurant itself. So they would be a good example of that. Any more questions or need more clarification on A?
I just want clarification. So
Sure.
in other words, a mobile food establishment may operate in the one location for a maximum of 18 consecutive hours, then return to commissary. But they cannot operate in the same location for more than 7 days? Like
Yes.
7 days in a
In
period?
a period of 30 days. So we're saying they can go to a location and they can sit there for up to 7 days, but then they need to move to a different location. So we're saying they can't set up and set permanently at the same place.
I guess I'm trying to figure out why they couldn't, as long as they return to the commissary and did you see that?
I don't understand it.
So I guess as long as they're following your,
I think that, let me check the
Sanitation.
city ordinance.
Like the waste.
I'm gonna
The
say,
waste
wasn't
has
that
the
in the
empty
city
container.
ordinance?
I was
they
gonna
had
say,
to?
I think it's in
When
the
I-
city ordinance,
We
and
had a
so
meeting
we
about this the
aligned
other day,
with
and that was
them.
one of the things that they
Well,
talked
there's
about.
a sushi
The
truck
city
that
ordinance,
was
they were
allowed.
trying to follow the city ordinance,
okay.
and theirs is set
Yes,
up that way.
so
Makes
city
sense.
says, no mobile food truck shall remain in one location for more than 7 consecutive days.
In 30,
Theirs says
This
7
is-
Theirs
consecutive
doesn't have
days.
30 days, the city.
well, so what does that mean, that they could leave for 2 days and then come back for another 7?
That's how the city has theirs written.
So,
I guess I
why
just-
are we doing the 7 days in 30 then if we're trying to follow the city ordinance?
Well, I'm not trying to follow the
Well, or
city
using-
other than that clause, and they have another clause, I think, in there. I mean, our intent is that, well, the intent, not necessarily ours, but even state, mobiles are designed to move. They're not designed to be in the same location, for an extended period of time.
If you
So-
have though, say they set up several different places during the day, okay, like a coffee or whatever.
Mhm.
If they might want to be at a specific location and consumers realize they may be there for, you know, at a set period of time on a daily basis, which would mean it might be 20 days, but they wouldn't be there on the weekends or, I mean, that would restrict them from doing that.
It could, our intent,
Prospect Bank.
okay.
There's a unit that comes in there every morning and then moves out, and they're not there overnight.
Mhm.
If we pass this ordinance, they couldn't do that on a daily basis.
Correct. But
Right.
if you don't specify, then they could be at that same location, 24/7. I mean, they could go home to their commissary, but then they can return back to that same day, but not for a period of 7. So they could go 6 days and then return to their commissary and then go 6 days again.
Well, they'd be there Monday through Friday, okay? Then
Right.
they wouldn't be there. They'd have to go home. Well, they do go home,
Mhm.
but they couldn't be there more than 1 or 7 days a month. Well, I don't understand why would we restrict them from going into the same location if they're only there a couple hours or every morning during the week? What health department reason?
We talked about that the other day in our meeting, because it was going, we was talking about Stagecoach.
Mhm.
I
Right,
can't
which
remember what
there's,
you was talking to.
there's a section, I haven't got to it yet, but there's a section of variances, which is what I was telling Scott. We have the authority to write a variance, so if there's a specific one that sets up at one location during the winter months, and they go there Monday through Friday, that we can write a variance and say, due to what risk they are and what they're selling, they can be at this location during these months or during whatever, this time of year. Our intent is not to make it more difficult for the mobile food vendors in our county.
That sounds like it is.
Okay, but my intent is that it is not.
Well,
We provide education to these people, we're out on holidays, we're out on weekends. We're not doing anything that would hinder them to do business in our county.
Is it different if it's only, like Stagecoach is only coffee? Is
Right.
it different for them than one that has food in the?
Well, and I think that's
absolutely.
what she's saying,
Yeah.
is that, writing a variance for someone, that, someone from our county that, or even from neighboring county, that we know very well, we're very familiar with what's going on in their food truck, and, but if we have people that come in that, maybe aren't doing things so well. But this is, certainly, this is the proposal.
Well, it's been
You
passed by
have
health.
you have the authority, and if there's something that you want us to take back to the Board of Health, we are absolutely willing to do that. So it is not the intent to make things more difficult on our mobile food vendors. It's also, we want to make sure to protect our permanent establishments who are here following the rules all day, every day. And so that kind of goes into that letter B, talking about not being able to be located within 200 feet of a permanent facility, unless both facilities are owned by the same person or they have an agreement. But please let us know, and if you need to discuss it further at your meeting and get back to us.
Well, that's just me. I don't know what
Well,
anybody else.
I should probably be all for that. But, I just don't wanna hinder commerce.
No.
As long as they adhere to the sanitation rules and
Right.
and you feel safe that they're serving a product that's good, I just don't want.
So I think there are a couple of philosophical conversations here.
Right.
One is, the theory and the business model of a mobile food truck is the ability to move and to go to different locations. And especially maybe in a larger metropolitan area, or maybe not, because if you have a certain type of food truck that is more popular in a certain neighborhood, then maybe they don't wanna move there either. But, so mobile, the thought is you can move to different areas, but kind of the way we do with landowners is, do we have the right to infringe upon their ability to do business? And are we infringing upon their right to do business the way that they want to, if they fall within the guidelines, if they want to stay at the same place all the time and it's okay with the landowner? So I think that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it's okay with the public in general, I guess.
Well, I don't understand why we concern ourselves, well, like Stagecoach Coffee, they're there in the bank every morning. Got a line you wouldn't believe, and, I heard nothing but positive things, why would we wanna get in their way? They don't do anything to, I don't know how you write your rules and what, but
And the thing that,
I have no problem with any of these people in this town at all.
and if you start talking about variances, you start talking about discretion. And then you get into,
And you have one
right,
arguing with the other, well, they get
Right.
this, we don't
Yeah.
get that, how come?
Or
it
maybe
should
somebody
be,
else didn't know you could get that.
Right.
Which they should if you've got it in writing, but.
They're pretty common.
well,
I mean, we don't write them commonly, but variances is a common thing. I mean,
Well, I'm
you see
just-
those in water, sewage, food. And I think I'm not arguing the fact, like she said, we can go back and we can change it, this is just our proposed. But I think it also makes a difference whether or not their commissary is in our county. Because we don't have the jurisdiction or the authority to inspect a commissary that's not located in our county. So if it's, again, like Roosters and Rumps are from Clark County, well, we don't have the jurisdiction to inspect where that food is coming from. All that we have is what's on the truck itself. And so if we only go one time and inspect them, if they're there for an extended period of time, we might have to do more inspections just to ensure that the food is still safe and that it's, being transported correctly. If they're going to be, like a Monday through Friday for the whole month at certain places. Now, I know we've mentioned Stagecoach. It depends on what type of risk they are. If we're just making coffee out of there, your risk of foodborne illness, it's not high. But if we're talking about, our high risk categories, it's certainly, it's a whole different, just a whole different way to look at
Their
it.
base is in Clark
So-
County, but they sell in Edgar County, well, that's interesting.
And then it crosses county lines, and if we would have a foodborne illness, it's just, this another thing to think about when we're discussing.
And the whole thing on this, they weren't trying to reinvent the wheel. They were taking all this stuff from the state's statutes that was already there, and the only thing that they added was this part here, and they took that from another county that had already done this. So they were just really, copy and pasting something in there to hopefully get this thing to where everybody would be on the same level, I think that's what their whole goal was.
Correct.
Well, I have no
counties are-
problem with what their intent is. Their intent is obviously safety for the, for the public. We just have to figure out the most efficient and fair way to do it, which is, that's what we're doing here, isn't it?
Yes, well, and I think that's an excellent point. Our job is to get this prepared, and then we need these other two boards to have input. That's why final decisions don't lie with us, and they don't lie with the Board of Health. We go through all of these layers, and here we are with you, and it's definitely important to have these discussions, and I think a lot of really valid points have been brought up, so.
So how do you control the trailers that come in from another county? I assume that you inspect them when they're here.
Yes.
And that's your only control? So you would have to hit them more often than anybody else, or is that the way you do it? I don't know.
depending on risk.
Yeah, it's
Well,
all
that's what-
based.
That's what I'm getting at. The Stagecoach
Right.
is a different story altogether.
Right.
Right.
But no, the House of Briskets, which I have nothing but confidence in, they serve different things, so. And they're all good as far as I'm concerned.
But their commissary is right here in town, so
Right,
she goes there
right.
and inspects
So
that.
that's not an
besides
issue
the
with
trailer.
them, but the other one is.
But
isn't
there's
it?
a lot, and there's a lot that come from outside of our county.
Why do we
We
let
only
them do
have
that?
about 3 or 4, and
Keep
otherwise
it,
they're
just
all
tell them to
coming
stay
from.
Clark County, we don't need them there. That is not an issue.
Let's go
I'm
ahead
sure we
and
won't
make
get any
it through
complaints.
this, and
I'll
maybe
bet.
your information will help us make a more informed decision.
So you wanna go page by page?
No, let's just,
finish what
Yeah.
we, okay. So, B, Monica already kind of touched on that, no mobile food establishment shall be located within 200 feet of a permanent facility unless they both are owned by the same person or they have a written agreement. So that just protects our already established, facilities, and if
Local
it- our local ones, and if they want someone to come set up right next to them and they have a written agreement, then that's fine. And then C, mobile food establishment vendors shall collect all trash and debris resulting from the operation of the mobile food establishment. And I believe, the next page, the only edit is on E. Is that on the next page? Yeah. Is on E. It's within 48 business hours there towards the end. That aligns with our retail food ordinance. So this is talking about if they would have a permit be suspended, we put 48 business hours in there to align directly with what we have for the other retail food.
Instead of 24.
Instead of 24, correct. And then inspection frequency, that's all from Illinois Department of Public Health. They tell us how many times we are to inspect. And then all of the pages following the exact same thing. It's either food code, Illinois Department of Public Health, or already in our retail food establishment ordinance. Nothing else is changed.
And you don't put that specific amount in there, you just put in, it depends on what risk category they are, is how often.
You have
Correct.
something from state talking about the
Yes.
tiers.
Talking about the tiers. The tiers are, I believe,
First pair of pages for some
I
reason.
know the pages are different, but I think the tiers are in the retail food. I don't believe that we go through and define in this one unless they're under definitions, but I don't think they are.
But we can certainly send out, the explanation on the tiers if you would like us to email that to you and.
Didn't we talk about that you thought
Yeah.
that Monica would, I'm sorry, you're Monica.
Yeah. You
That,
can go ahead and explain the tiers.
I thought you said you were going to today.
Yeah, I've got a cheat sheet for you, Marissa.
Okay.
I know you know them, but.
I was gonna say, I don't really need a cheat sheet, but.
Oh, okay.
So the categories are based upon high, medium, and low risk for foodborne illness. It's defined from Illinois Department of Public Health, and per our grant, they tell us how many times we inspect based upon that category. So if you're a high risk category, you're gonna see us come in and inspect at least 3 times a year, because
That's
that's
per
what's.
state?
Yeah,
That's
that's
per
per state. Yeah, the state sets that stated for us. Yeah, and they say 3 times for a high risk, once a year for category 2, which is our medium, and then our low risk, like your gas stations. That's basically, and in your bars that don't serve food, those are your category 3s, low risk, every other year is how often we go and see them. So, and that's, like I said, that's exactly from IDPH, and then we get audited on those. So they come, they pull all of our files, make sure that we, went as many times as we were supposed to, and then they look through every single inspection that we do.
Have you increased the amount of inspections to certain categories over what the state recommends that you should do?
No.
Okay.
No, we do the minimum requirement, unless there's a complaint or a foodborne illness
understand.
outbreak. But day to day, yep, we do the minimum of what's required.
however, when as health board, and this has been maybe May, which was my first meeting, perhaps maybe July, we had increased food inspection or food license amounts, and I do specifically recall that it was to cover the costs of additional inspections.
Correct.
So what additional inspections?
So that comes from this mobile food. So mobile food is now being categorized by high, medium, and low. And so we have to follow that same standard from the state where they say 3 inspections a year. Before, we're only inspecting those mobile food establishments one time.
But I'm thinking that what we had voted on as health board was an increase in, forgive me for not saying it the right terminology, but the restaurant inspection fees, that those went up.
They're the same. So what our retail food establishments pay and what our mobile food establishments pay are now the same in that category. So they're
Because they're all-
category 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, so to accommodate the fees and the charges, the costs that we are charging for our mobile, we increase the charges to our restaurants?
So we lumped it together. Some of that because mobile is gonna be more inspections. We also hadn't raised those fees, I don't know how many years, so I'm not gonna put a number on it, but for a few years. We have mileage to and from those establishments. So whether we're talking, in town Paris or we're Hume, Brockton, Kansas, we've got mileage to from, you've got the hours in which we spend on the inspection, the hours that we document for each inspection, our workload in terms of what the fee is that they pay, we felt that it needed an increase.
What did it go for, like a tier 1? What was Andy's restaurant prior and what is it now?
Prior was 150, now is 250. And those numbers came from we looked at other surrounding counties and their fees, and I don't have the chart with me, I don't know if you do, but I had a chart that I provided to the Board of Health when we talked about the fee schedule that listed all of these other counties. There was probably 8 to 10 maybe on there, I don't remember for sure.
Different populations.
But yeah, different populations, especially all of those that surround us, and what they charged and then what our proposed fee was. So we are not the lowest and we are not the highest. So we felt like it was a fair increase.
So, to try to figure apples to apples, so tier 1 on your existing one, the restaurants, well, it wouldn't be just restaurants. Where does a convenience store fit in there?
It depends. If it's like a Casey's, it's a category 2. If it's like an
Okay.
R&J's, it's category 3.
Okay. So a category 1 on a restaurant, your number of inspections and the detail for inspection is gonna be basically the same as it is for mobile?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, which is different. Because before, for mobiles, we would use a temporary mobile inspection form, and it was on paper, it was like a 1-page, didn't have everything that the retail food establishments did, because they fell into that temporary mobile. But now that the state has changed that, then yes, we treat them exactly like our existing establishments. I mean, they'll get the color-coded placard and they'll get the 3 inspections, and it won't be any different other than the fact that they can move.
Okay, and so, somebody that sits up at the Honeybee Festival or the fair, they'll use that same inspection form as a mobile food truck?
As long as they're not temporary.
But if they're temporary, then they still use the
Then
short
they're,
form with
yeah, then they're
less.
on the short form,
Okay.
and their fee, is $50 for a one-time event or $75 for the season for temporaries.
And how long can that event be?
No longer than 14 days, and that comes from Illinois Department of Public Health.
So tier 1 is at the high risk,
Yes,
okay, and you say it went from 150 to 250, is that annual or per ever?
annual,
Annual,
once a
okay.
year.
Okay.
Yep, that covers them for the entire year.
But you inspect them 3 times.
Yes.
At least, unless they find a
Right,
problem, and
okay,
then
all right.
of course they won't.
Does anyone else have any other questions on that?
What if you only see a food truck once a year?
If they only come once a year to our county,
Yeah, like Sadi Baba, sometimes they're here, sometimes they're not. That's the one that comes to mind. You're
yeah,
supposed to inspect them 3 times, I mean, if you only see them once, that gets you off the
then
hook.
then we only inspect them once. Cause we have that sometimes where a lot of them will fill out their forms at the beginning of the year. And, you know, they'll check, they'll be here for 4th of July and Christmas in Paris and Honeybee. And then something might happen and they don't show up to those events, but we are at every single event. So we'll inspect them if they're there, and if they're not there, then we catch them the next time.
So when they show up for a festival, that's kind of intense, isn't it?
Festivals, oh yes, yeah.
After
Fair Week's my
6
favorite
months.
week of the whole year.
Wow, okay, I'll bet.
So the barbecue, that'd be a temporary,
Shrine barbecue?
So you mean,
shrine barbecue.
oh, Shrine Barbecue, yes, they are a temporary, cause food is made on site and they are, that one day. So we go out in the morning, that Saturday morning, and,
Just what it is.
yeah. It's complicated, the difference between temporary and mobile and our permanent facility is, I mean, it gets kind of all intertwined, so.
I would suggest that, like on F in permit suspension, and there may be other spots in here, that's just one that I see. I would make sure I reference what your fee is going to be, like you did down here under frequency, where you say, you specify where you're getting that fee from. Otherwise, I read this and I say, a fee set forth by the health board for permit reinstatement. I just would suggest that you tighten it up by making sure that you have references everywhere.
She said, yeah.
F
Oh,
is where there
sorry.
isn't one, it just says a fee,
Okay, a fee set forth.
yes, in permit suspension.
It says reinstatement.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I'm just saying, I would suggest that you reference just where you're gonna find that fee, and so that it's not,
That's a good idea.
I just think it would tighten it up.
Sure.
Monica, did you do any checking about whether the board,
I did
This
talk to
board?
Bellwether. Mm-hmm, yes, and they said that,
fee,
Yeah.
I asked
he said the
Bellwether.
Board of Health is empowered by the county board to approve these fees.
Okay, that's what I
And-
wanted to know, so we didn't wind up having a problem later.
That's what they told me.
So if it's a change in the fee, a proposed fee for an existing service, then that's within the health board's
Yes.
domain, whereas if it is something new, then it goes to the county board.
I believe so. I would have to ask him that. I was asking the question pertinent to this, but I'll check with him and see if there's a difference.
Any other questions?
Nancy, you have any?
No, I think I have mine. Thanks, Brett.
So these ordinances, are they posted like on your website? Do they have to contact you to get a copy of it, or?
We send these to the county board and also to Augie. So you have, a copy of all of our ordinances. I
Okay.
Yeah, when I get them, I record them,
Uh-huh.
so they're public documents.
But as far as accessibility to the public, they're on your website?
They're not on our website, but we can put them on
I'd
the
say they
website
should be.
easily. Okay.
Yeah, you know,
In
if
this
someone's
day and
wanting to
age.
come in, I guess they could call you and you can send them a copy, but I just.
Absolutely, but we're trying to put as much on the website as we can.
Yeah.
I've been kind of working through.
Mhm.
a redesign and making sure things are accessible, so I'm happy to take care of that.
On the 30-day issue, could the policy, and I do understand the issue with somebody with a commissary outside the county, can we somehow modify that so it's not quite so restrictive, or am I just the single person going, that sounds a little restrictive?
Which one, where are you?
We're back to the very beginning, when we talked about the 18 hours to return to commissary, and then go back to, they can only be 7 days out of 30. It just seems to be restrictive, but I understand what you're saying if the commissary is out of the county.
Well, do you think maybe a variance for our in-county?
On automatic variance?
Well, I mean, we'd have to, I think, write a variance per,
See, I don't like variances.
okay.
I mean, as far as, I mean, that's automatically restrictive, and it allows for it to be subjective.
Right, to be
That's where the
subjective, that's
problem-
where your problem with the variance, somebody
Right.
makes a decision
Right.
versus, here's what it says.
Right.
So can we put in this ordinance that, like you said, kind of a blanket that for establishments, mobile food establishments that have a commissary in county,
I
that
don't
we
know.
are able to,
I
inspect?
don't think we have any business. And you know, it didn't dawn on me until we had this conversation. I don't know that we have any business telling somebody where they can and cannot locate and that they have to move every week.
Yeah, that's where I'm
I
at.
just,
But I do understand.
if it's it's a business principle and a business practice. If they call themselves mobile, they're on wheels and they leave and they meet your ordinance of retooling, cleaning and everything when they're off-site. But I'm not sure I feel comfortable telling someone where they can do business if they have met your health requirements. But if they think that they're mobile and that it is a better business practice for them to move all over the county, then they can do that.
So are you, just for clarification, so are you suggesting to not align with the 7-day period?
No, not aligned with the 30, just take that out.
Just take out for in a period of 30 days.
Mhm.
So saying one location, no longer than a maximum of 18 hours for the 7 days. And take out the in a period of 30 days.
The 18
I
hours
just try- I
has
just
to
wanna
do
make
with their,
sure
what
their
their
eight-
capacity is.
Right,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
that's health.
Yes.
Yes, that's health and safety. The 30 days, I don't feel like we should be trying to have an influence on that.
Sure.
To me, that's a business decision, that's not a health decision.
I feel like that can be taken out.
Yeah. And then if they wanna be truly mobile, then they'll figure that out and they'll arrange 3 or 4 different locations within a calendar month, but then I think that's their business.
Is there any problem with code?
Excuse me, folks.
That's, no, okay.
So Jeff, we were just talking about taking that part out about the 30 days, leaving the 18 hours because that has to do with health and safety.
No, that's fine. I mean, I just,
What do you guys think?
I agree.
Because if somebody wants to hang in Vermillion on
Not that I've
30
ever been
days,
off
whatever.
days.
You can
Well,
serve
like I say,
everybody in
it's
a
probably
half
not to
hour.
my advantage, but I do have to agree.
well,
So, a
Yeah.
question for me for clarification now, do I need to remove that and take that back to the Board of Health for
Yeah.
approval and then send it to you? Do we need to present, or can we just send it to you?
I would
and
say
roll?
if the Board of Health feels totally different than we do, and they've got a really valid argument for keeping it the way it is, then it comes back to us with a discussion on why they thought it was so valid.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't foresee that happening since 2 of you are here.
It's only 2 out of 9.
2 of the toughest.
Perhaps.
Do you
Was there-
have any, I'm sorry, do you have any other questions for us? It's not my meeting, I apologize.
you're fine. Is there any other concerns that we've uncovered or clarity needed on anything? I mean, it would be nice, unless we're gonna take it off the table, or Wednesday. When it comes, I think the study session is good for you to be at, but if there are any further questions during the actual meeting, it would be great if one of you could be here.
I think I'd be happy to I think, yes, I can, it's Wednesday. But you probably need to take it off the table because our next Board of Health meeting is not until the 21st.
Well,
So we'll have it,
then the following, whatever January's meeting is, I think the 11th, then we can,
certainly.
if there's no issues and the board's fine with that, meaning your board, then, just,
Send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. We good?
Yeah, I guess my other thing, I don't know that it needs to be in writing, maybe you just have this in the back of mind as your practice. If you're more concerned about somebody whose commissary is out of county, then I think I would just make sure that my inspections reflected the time that you might be most concerned about them meeting it. Like instead of the first day that they park, then I'd make it the end of the time that they're gonna park there, just as a business practice.
Sure,
I don't know that that needs to be in writing, it just needs to be a business practice.
sure.
The temporary though, if somebody's there 7 days out of the fair or something, isn't there a lot of concern if you're trying to apply the same kind of concerns? I'm just saying, the guys coming from Clark County may be doing a great job, cause they've gotta go back to their commissary no matter what, after 18 hours. These folks at the temporary permit don't have to go anywhere. So how do you know that they got enough water, that they're washing? So that's the one you ought to
trust
tighten
that-
up
yeah.
on a little bit.
Yeah. But, you're bound by the food code and what the
Yeah.
state says.
What the state says.
Yeah.
Well, there's a non sequitur there somewhere. I don't
Yes.
understand why they're so concerned about, one side, but let the other side go.
You're talking about government, Jed.
Well, no,
Really
that's,
seriously, that's kind of common, I think.
well, and
They
I
do,
still want to point
the
it
left
out.
hand don't know what the right hand's doing most of the time anyway.
And somebody was assigned this, and somebody else was assigned that. All right. Anything else?
I believe so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate you listening, appreciate all the input. I think it takes all of us to make sure we arrive at the best decision for our county and,
More communication, little net, better understanding and
Absolutely.
cooperation.
absolutely.
Me and the girls have been having meetings here, and Mike, yeah, Mike. Just letting you guys know that I'm trying to get involved in there, more mainly because I'm semi-retired now, so I wanna get involved in that to be able to come to your meetings, and if you do have a question, you'll be able to, I'll be able to answer it hopefully as time goes on, because I've been going to inspections of all kind of things, so, and I told them, I said, I'm gonna continue doing that. One, to help them out, and also to help the person out here that when they come, it's like a person shows up with a badge. I don't care if it's a metal badge or a paper badge, they're already mad. So I want to try and be there to be a buffer for them for a while, to make sure this thing's going, we want to help the community out. We're not trying to hurt them. So I'm going to be kind of a pain in their butt for a while.
Ours?
Yeah.
We invite you. Welcome you. I just want to say that we really, really have appreciated Scott. He mentioned to me that he wanted to talk after our last board meeting and after Thanksgiving. You said after holidays, and I thought, well, Thanksgiving's the only holiday.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna call him, and I have really appreciated him taking time to come and talk to us. And I asked him if he'd be willing to come in and look at some of these things, so that it's difficult. Lisa, you're working, so you can't just drop everything and come and see what we do. But I welcome board members to actually see what we do, so that there isn't misunderstanding, miscommunication. We are absolutely for the good of our county and for the health of our residents. So, again, if anybody has any questions or concerns, please contact me. Yes.
Is your relationship with the plumbers in town better than it used to be?
The plumbers?
The plumbers,
What'd you
especially
say?
one.
I'm working on that, Dan, working on that.
I was gonna
Okay.
say, I heard a story at a restaurant the other day that, you were there and it buffered things a lot.
It's always thought of you as a buffer.
That's kind of what I am.
Well,
I think we've expressed
They don't know you
to
very
the
well.
prior administrator and to some people that have asked, that the board is concerned, this board is concerned about the timeliness of services that you offer to people that count on, that are out constructing houses or repairing businesses or repairing residences or handling emergencies where the toilet doesn't flush. And quite frankly, I think that we hope that you're working on your ability to be flexible, as flexible as you can be, to.
Just to let you know, Jeff, last week we went, Marissa was in school all week long, learning more stuff. Mike was sick, and she took out of her own time to go up to Cooley's place up by Brockton and met with one of the contractors, and I was there. And we went over everything, took 15 minutes. But she'd already been in school all day long. Poor kid's butt was dragging, and she still goes out there. And
That's good.
he was fine,
That's good.
That's
but
good.
we had to have a buffer. I was there about 15 minutes before, so it helped.
No, I understand what you're talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
I took, it's, you know, and it's, some of that stuff dies hard, you know?
It does. There's only so many hours in a day. They're supposed to give them a 48-hour in advance notice. Sometimes you don't get that, and they still expect for you to do it.
All right.
But then there's been times when things have gotten canceled and nothing's gotten done, even though they've called in it.
Well, we're working on it.
Do you have an example
Okay.
of that?
Yeah, I'll give it to you later.
Okay, we'd like to have
We're,
that.
we're working on it.
Appreciate that.
Okay. thank you.
She's doing a great job, and I give both of them credit right now, because they've really come a long way from what we started with in July. Long way.
And that's what we understood was happening. We understood that that was progressing.
And just to let you know, of course, I told you at the last meeting, I'm not the environmental health expert, but I am going out on all of the inspections. There's a lot to learn as the new administrator, and I appreciate everyone's patience with me. But I am going out to, and I welcome people to come and talk to me about whatever issues or complaints there are. Sometimes, you know, we need to know, is this really as it seems, or is there miscommunication, or is there, I know last time, Carl, you said you appreciated me coming because some of the things I shared you didn't know. And so we wanna make sure that, you know, just like these code things we've talked about, we can't change what IDPH says or things like that. So I wanna make sure that I'm available anytime to speak to those things, and certainly it is not my desire not to work with the county. I want to work with the Board of Health, I want to work with the county, and I want to make sure that we are all working together for the good of our residents. So thank you for allowing me to come. I will shut up and leave you now.
Thank you, Marissa.
Carl
Well,
has
I
something.
got it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And some of the, I've had complaints, and I think, sounds like probably the complaints, some of the complaints I've heard, Scott has heard, and he's talking with you and addressing them, and I appreciate everybody trying to address those concerns. So I'll leave it at that on, you know, who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right.
I told the girls the other day, I said, my son-in-law always says to his baseball team, teamwork makes the dream work, so that's what we're gonna work on.
Right.
I have provided Carl and Dan your phone number. so-
Yes, please feel free to call me anytime.
But sometime in the real near future, I wanna meet with you folks
I'd love
on some issues. I've done a tour of the county, and I've seen some things that need addressing, and I'm not sure I mean, I've read the statutes and all that kind of stuff, so I wanna talk with you about some of these situations and see if we can address some of these. Whether you guys can, or whether we have to get the sheriff involved, you know, I don't know, but we just need to talk about some of these issues.
Environmental and safety and
Yeah.
health.
Safety and health issues in a few locations in the county.
Well, let's get something scheduled, but you've got my cell phone number, so
Right.
call anytime.
Yep.
And Dan, I know you said you had some things you were concerned about, so please give me a call, because I can't do anything about things that I don't know about or
Right.
don't understand.
Right.
But I'm very committed to learning the things that I need to learn, so.
Well, and as you can see, study sessions are the perfect place.
Yes, yes.
It's casual, it's informal, everybody, including the newspaper, feels like we can ask
We
the
don't cut
questions they
anybody
need.
off.
No, and it goes until it needs to stop.
And one of the situations I was talking about is in Vermillion, and I talked to Max, and he said you talked to people, of course, they've not done anything, so.
Yeah,
That's
our next step with that, one of their issues was turned over to the state's attorney several years ago and nothing happened. So our next step is the state's attorney's office
Well,
again.
and I'm hearing that, you know, from some of these people, and if, you know, when I had talked to them about it, they said, well, they talk to people, but nothing happens.
We,
And we had that situation, you know, just with this building, we talked at the highway thing, you know, they were complaining, but nobody done anything. So I'm trying to see that someone does something.
And we
Situations.
aren't the enforcement, we have to take it, if
Right.
we get involved and they don't do anything, then we have to take it to the state's attorney, and we are reliant on them getting involved.
I share your frustrations with that,
Right.
certainly,
Yeah, I
because we,
know.
you know, we go out, we visit, and we take pictures, and we write letters, and we,
Yeah.
you know, some of these things have been ongoing for quite some time.
Right.
And so I share your frustration in that,
So
certainly.
I'll get with you.
So, sure.
All right, thanks for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry.
Scotty,
Yes, sir.
you wanna?
Just give you guys a little bit of heads up on the Fire Protection District. Normally, no news is good news, and we don't normally have any problems over the years. Things have changed. We don't have as much help now as we used to. We've dropped down to about 70, and probably gonna drop down a little more, but we had an audit. Audits are always bad. You know how those go. They always find something. And our labor audit was terrible. None of our paperwork was done like it's supposed to be. And I've been kind of fighting over the last few years, talking to the other board members about, I think at some point in time we need to get a district chief. So we hired a district chief now. He's gonna be full-time. And that's gonna help out a bunch. He's gonna, Rick Eastham is our new district chief. And I think that will solve a lot of our problems, because he's gonna be working on keeping up with all the paperwork and getting all that stuff done, because really, we don't have the time to be able to do it as board members. And so now he's gonna be in charge. He's gonna have a assistant chief and then captains at each station. So the other thing, we've got a new tanker ordered for the Vermillion Station, and of course, it's like everybody else. They've already said now that it was supposed to have been here in February, but because of all the labor issues and the chips and everything that's going on, now it's moved to 25. So it's gonna be another 2 years off before we get that.
It's a big change.
Yeah, it's a constant battle with, they get 100 trucks per year. They're down to 22 is all they're gonna get this year to work with, and we're not one of the 22, so we just gotta wait our turn like everybody else does. It's you only get what you get. But other than that, everything's going great. It's working out good, and I think everybody's keeping pretty happy. So if you guys ever have any questions for me, because I'm gonna try and show up at most of your meetings, just to see if you have any questions on either hat that I gotta wear. I'll be there, and if you don't,
You are the chairman now, right, with the fire protection district?
yeah, I'm the president, yeah,
Or president?
yeah.
It's got 3 members?
Yeah.
Who besides Ben?
Dean Moko.
Okay. Ben was at the 911 meeting, and he talked about that you guys have been talking about issues at some of the southern part of the
Yeah,
radio
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And of course, Adam brought that up, and the radio service is looking into some different options.
Oh, good.
And talking about adding some more, I don't know whether it's repeaters or what, but they're gonna come up with some type of proposal, and they're looking at some of the water towers and different towers in the southern part of the county that we put some equipment on. They were talking about possibly up to 25,000 per site for a cost.
Oh, wow.
So, but, you know, we're looking into addressing.
Yeah, yeah,
Some
it's like
of these-
everything, you can only do what you can afford to do
Right.
at the time.
Yeah.
That's like us, you know, we do what we can do with what we got to work with.
What about, attracting more volunteers?
That's kind of what Rick's gonna be working on.
Okay.
He has a FIT program, there's a, I can't remember what the initials are for, but that's been getting more people to his department, and we're hoping that this will filter out into the rest of them once he starts taking over everything, which is now, he's starting to take over, but you know, it's gonna be a year to work with. You'll probably lose some and gain some. Some just have never shown up once they've been volunteer, and then maybe they never show up again. So we're gonna be trying to go through all that this year, trying to weed out some of those, and then get the ones that are working all the time to hopefully get some more people in. But it's a problem all over the United States right now with volunteers. You can't find people who want to volunteer for stuff like that. They just don't.
Can't even hire anybody, let
You know,
alone.
and we pay $35 a run, and that's the most of anybody around, and you still can't get anybody to show up.
Who all's in the Paris Fire District? What all entities,
It's
areas?
Redmond, Grandview, Oliver, Vermillion. That's our 4 stations.
So everybody but us, your
Yeah, you have,
district and mine.
you have Chrisman. We go as far north as the Horse Brockton Road. We're on the south side of the Horse Brockton Road, but not the north side of the Horse Brockton Road. They still call us up there every once in a while, you know, if the boys are busy, but, and then on the east side of Route 1 would be Vermillion and Oliver's side. Then the other side would be Redmond and Grandview, but only problem is we're just not having much response from Redmond and Grandview anymore. Everybody's busy, they're all working. You know, it used to be years ago, all the farmers was a volunteer fireman, and most of them all have real jobs, you know. Not farming's not a real job, don't put that in the paper for me. Scratch that.
Carl, were you?
Back up just a second. Used to, all the farmers was at home, and now, they all have got other jobs, so they just don't have the time. So now you're relying on other people that have other jobs, and most of them can't get away from work.
Right, or our small communities had so many, that there you had people that were employed in the small community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, Rick's working with, getting a lot of younger guys at the Vermillion side, so we're hoping that we can, he's gonna start going to the high school and talk to them and things like that, so I'm hoping that gets more of these young kids involved, because if they start young, they can start as a junior firefighter program and then move up into the volunteer side, or go into, hopefully, maybe Paris Fire as time goes on.
I know in Chrisman, when they get to whatever age that is, they're wearing their pagers at the high school.
Oh, yeah.
Gone.
Yeah, 16 to 18 is kind of the real, we've got a few out there, and then we've got one kid out there, I think his name is Ethan Hefner, big, tall drink of water.
Yeah.
He man, he is at everything you can go to. He doesn't miss anything, and he rides with the ambulance service, rides with Paris Fire. I mean, he is really getting involved. I'm sure he'll be a fireman the minute he turns 21. I'm sure he'll be a fireman for Paris Fire probably.
It'd be good if you can keep him local and.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, be nice.
Scotty, we appreciate the hats that you wear and you digging into the health department like you were doing.
Well, we're just trying to help, what we can. And the girls have been very helpful for me, not knowing what's going on down there. And I told them, I said, after I was at a few of their meetings, I'm like, man, I gotta figure this out. Because you, as you well know, you just can't go to a meeting and pretend at the end of that meeting, once it adjourns, it's over and you go home and you don't see them again for another 30 days. You have no idea what goes on. So that's what I told them. I said, I've been kind of a pain in their butt, but if I have time, I just give them a call and see if they've got time to meet with me. If they do, we met one day, 2.5 hours, we went through everything, trying to just keep up on stuff. And I think it's gonna help. At least, I can get involved enough. You don't have any of the doctors that can. She can't. I've got time on my hands. If I don't have a ball game for the grandson or granddaughters, I'll help.
Well, Rodney probably will have a little time.
We'll see how Rodney works.
The other thing is, when you get a chance, probably, especially as a business owner yourself, taking a look at the employment handbook and going over that with them.
Sure, yeah.
Don't we have isn't there a vacancy now on
Yes.
the board?
Are you president now?
No, of the health department? No, I'm just board member.
I thought the president was gone, that's why I was asking.
He is. They are gonna reorganize at the next meeting.
Okay,
Right now, the way it's set up, that the, Dr. Rico, the way Bellwether says, Dr. Rico has to take it, and then somebody gets voted in as the,
new president?
would be the second in command, whatever that is.
That doesn't
That's the way
sound right.
Bellwether says.
Doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right to
The
me.
vice chairman moves up, and then,
I thought it
for
could be anybody.
It could
temporary.
be anybody.
The
He
vice
moves up to
chairman would
take
run
the-
the meeting,
runs
the
the meeting.
beginning, and
Okay.
to take nominations.
Right.
Yes.
well, that's not the way they explained it to me, but we'll see.
And we'll,
Better
They'll be there,
get that
so,
straightened out.
yes, I will call
Yeah,
him.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's,
yeah.
and I don't, I'm not gonna speak to it. All right. Anything else, Scotty?
nope,
Any other questions of Scotty?
Nope.
Okay.
all right, I'll get out of you guys later.
Oh,
Thanks.
we're just about ready to get out of our own meeting. Do you wanna talk about the grant? We don't have a whole lot,
Sure.
there's nothing amazing on the agenda other than the supervisor of assessments, new agreement, and Lisa and I worked with Dina, and it's in there.
Oh, you got that done?
Yeah, and it's on the agenda. And other than that, there's appointments and the heavy lifting will come the next meeting mostly. So, I was gonna ask Lisa to talk to you a little bit about broadband.
Yes, so Jeff received an email that we have the opportunity to apply for, it isn't at the point of applying for a grant. It's basically, we have to fill out an application to find out what it is that we would be applying for, the details. But it's, one of the big drivers for it is the Illinois Soybean Association. And there are, I think, 8 counties that they were offering this opportunity. And it's based on ag counties. And so I'm working with Wyatt from Farm Bureau to fill out an application, and it's not a real detailed one, but it's showing that we have a need for improved internet access. And they're saying for the ag community, and that's what we are focusing on. And so I've written a cover letter for Jeff to review and make changes if you want. that just stating why we have issues with internet. And of course, over on the east side, it's piecemeal. And we have one individual who has his own business, and it's based on cell towers, water towers, and grain legs. And if you don't have visibility, direct line of sight, then you don't have internet. And it works well, but that's really not the way we should be having to do things in this day and age. But then Wyatt lives in the middle of Hume, and he has no internet. So, because
Hume has no internet?
he has no internet where he is because the line of sight is not available because he has trees. So, you know, we're basing this on ag. But then again, you know, Wyatt is ag. We have people who live in communities who are, their businesses are ag. So, you know, there's been a lot of publicity regarding the need for internet because of the changes in remote employment and the schools. But it's been bothering us in the ag field forever. And for us, as an example, we have GPS in our planter tractor and in our combine. And right now, we're looking at a used $6,500 GPS doohickey that's for the combine. It's like a receiver. But if we don't have internet where we are, it doesn't work. And so the impact of that is for one thing, poor guy, he has to actually drive his tractor and his combine because he can't do self-guided. And, but more important than that is yield maps. And so if you don't have accurate yield maps, that affects a whole lot of other things, including the FSA office, your crop insurance, and being able to do a better job of determining drainage and fertilizer application. So there's a whole lot that goes into our need for internet that the general public wouldn't know. So Wyatt and I talked about that. So we have somebody from Farm Credit who's on the crop insurance side and is also a farmer. And then we'll probably get at least one other crop insurance entity, and maybe Nels from Great Heart. But we have all these people that we can rely on. But the actual application is pretty simple. And Wyatt was thinking he would be able to get his part done today, because it's due the 16th, and we just found out about it last week. So I think we have a good shot.
This is a thing through the state of Illinois? There is something to.
Yes, but they also say it is not part of something else. So we really don't know much about it, but we have to go through this step to find out more to see if we want to do it.
It's like a pre-application.
Yeah.
I sent ours, I got a news release on it, I sent it to Dr. Larson, because he always does all those grants and everything.
And was it his?
It's
the same
Illinois
or different?
soybean.
Okay, it's the same one then.
Yeah, and I thought the money was from USDA, but I could be wrong.
They have a role in this, but let me text Wyatt and tell him that you'd send it to Dr. Larson.
Well, because I just think he would
Right, we
be.
don't need to do differently, it's just
Yeah.
that we didn't know where else.
I
it
didn't
was
know,
going.
I mean, and he may not be doing anything, I sent it to him.
Aggressive. We don't wanna ruin our chances.
No. Well, I always like going out, half a mile from the Vermillion Road and a half a mile on the other side of it, and you don't get any,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And then I went out to the mill for the Chamber of Commerce thing, the mill out
Yes.
wherever the hell that is,
St. Bernice.
and got lost,
Yeah,
because my GPS wasn't working.
Right.
yeah, you gotta know where you're going to get there.
Yeah, and dark, in the dark, anyway.
Yeah, it's an issue out
Oh, yeah.
east.
Okay,
So I guess this broadband, potentially what would it do?
well, I'm not sure. Do you?
I mean,
It
Provide
doesn't really,
internet,
it would,
it'd be what?
provide internet.
Yeah.
Throughout the county?
Well,
That's what they're saying. Now, in Vermillion County, Indiana, Joey has the contract, and they are running lines up and down in our world, 71, and the blacktop that goes from 71 into Cuga, which goes by our pasture.
Mhm.
But I don't know that this is gonna be like that. I don't know.
I see, okay.
But to me, the only way to make this work if you're doing ag is for it to be up, not ground. So you would think it would have to be satellite
Right.
or something like that. All right, that's all I have on that. Jeff and hopefully I'll get the information today. I'll pass it off to Jeff.
Yeah, I texted you this morning,
So you thought that was okay? All right.
except for my name. Augie, did you have anything? We'll just talk about the dates at the next
That was the
meeting.
only thing, dates and times.
Right. Does, anybody else have anything for the meeting this morning? Yes, sir?
We did receive a $500 donation from the Phelps. Thanks for Ray Corky to the animal shelter.
Okay. Say, I missed who donated it.
Pardon?
Who donated it?
Phelps
Okay, that's what I mean.
and Ray Corky.
Okay.
And then, I talked to Amber yesterday, she has COVID, so she's out for a while. Tony has shingles.
Yeah, we really shouldn't discuss people's medical issues.
Pardon?
We shouldn't discuss people's medical issues in front of the king.
Scratch that.
It's- I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, if we're medical professionals, we can, but if you just happen to know something.
Well, I just
Can
don't know what
I
I was.
mention it?
No. No, go ahead. Is it about somebody?
It's about an organization that donated the $500.
Oh, that's
That
nice, yeah.
won't do it again because nobody showed up to accept it. I got that from the
I didn't know about it.
No, I didn't know about it till, Saturday morning.
Was one of them invited and were they
They're all,
sick?
yes, there were several organizations invited that they donated $500 to. And we did not show up, the people at the pound didn't show
Were
up.
they sick?
They were sick.
No, I don't know.
It was 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 weeks ago?
I don't know.
Everybody's pictures were in the paper.
All I'm doing is telling you what they told
Well,
me.
you guys need to address that issue to them as the committee.
Well, the Elks Club, of all the people there, they voted to renew it, but not ours. So there's 500 out the window.
Well, maybe if there's a justification for not attending or some, maybe that can be rectified.
They could've called me, I could've gone.
Well, Andrea, if
I
she
don't think
knew,
the
she
Elks
would've told
Club's
you.
that efficient. Yeah. If you know the same guys I do. So wonder they were there. I'm just telling you, I mean, I don't care what
Yeah,
you do.
no, but good, I need to find out.
Okay, well, is there anything else to come before the meeting this morning? Motion to adjourn? Andy moves, Russ seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. We're adjourned.